solo you just heard is Brent Mason's guitar solo over the Alan Jackson song, Don't Rock the Jukebox. And I think this is a great solo to kind of follow up with what we've been covering as far as these bends on kind of the higher strings. The solo itself is not super complicated. The parts that Brent chose to play are fairly straightforward, but I think he does a good job kind of outlining some of the chord changes, and he does a good job just incorporating some just classic pedal steel-esque country style bends into this solo. And yeah, because of that, I think it makes a great opportunity for teaching this stuff. My plan for this lesson is just to kind of slowly go through the solo, break down what he's playing, and then kind of like usual, I want to talk about why the parts he's playing work over the chord that's being played over. The progression for this song, pretty standard in country, right? It's in the key of G, but it goes from the G chord to a C chord, back to a G, back to a C. So that's kind of the first repetition. Then it goes to the G. There's some movement. The bass walks up, goes to the 5 chord, the D, and then resolves to the G. So like I said, song's in the key of G, and we're thinking this G chord up here, think about like a C shape, or if we think about D, moved up here to the 7th fret. So the first lick he's playing, right? We've kind of covered this already in the other lessons about bending, but he's just kind of walking up to the root note, which is here, that B string on the 8th fret. And we've talked about this. This is just that classic pedal steel bend, right? It's the same as this territory, but it's down here out of this shape. So he's bending from what would be the 2nd scale degree up, if I could do it in tune, up a whole step to the major 3rd. But yeah, that's just pretty simple. He's letting everything get muted, and then he's leaving it bent and hitting kind of that pre-bent note and walking it, or releasing the bend back down, right? And as always, I'm using my middle finger to really get that high E string to pop. And then at this point, the song goes to the key of, or not the key of C, the song goes to the C chord. Still key of G, but it goes to the C chord. So he does something cool here, right? We talk all the time about the flat 7. He's going to use the flat 7 of C. So if we think about our C major bar chord here, and then we think about, right, we literally just talked about it in G, that classic pedal steel bend here. So the G portion, right, he could have done that, just use the classic pedal steel thing, but instead he's going to grab this flat 7. So still think about this just like you would your classic C-shaped pedal steel, but instead of bending up and then hitting that high root, the C note, we're dropping down a whole step and using that flat 7th. Right, we've talked about doing some kind of droning licks like that, where you're kind of grabbing different notes over that bent note. That's all he's doing here, thinking C, and then using that flat 7. So far, so hopefully you find this lesson helpful. I just wanted to mention here that this is actually part of a bigger series on country guitar techniques that I'm doing over on Patreon. We have a whole series there where we break down some of the techniques required to play country guitar, obviously bending being one of those. We've also talked about some flat picking techniques. We've talked about some hybrid picking, chicken picking ideas. Right now we're kind of in the bending series we're in the bending portion of the series. So this is kind of the third video in the bending part of this little mini series over there. But if that's something you're interested in, definitely go check that out. There will be links below. All right, let's get back to this lesson. So the next bit he does is interesting. As he's kind of resolving that portion over the C chord, he releases that bend, but then he's not picking the string again. He's letting it come down, and then he's sliding down 2 frets and then bending back up. Bending up a whole step again. So yeah, if you listen to the record there, you can actually tell he's not picking that string again. He's just kind of letting the fact that he's moving over the frets quickly help keep that string ringing out. So some more interesting bend ideas going on here. The song is moving back into the G chord briefly. So he's kind of doing the same pedal steel shapes, but he's doing it out of like a G minor pentatonic box now. So instead of where we would normally be thinking like G major, kind of doing some minor-esque sounds here, if you think about it that way. Still grabbing now within the G chord, he's grabbing the flat 7 of our G major, right? So that pinky there that's grabbing here on the B string is hitting the flat 7 of G. And then he's going all the way up the high E string is playing that G note. And then he just kind of does that pre-bent release, and then just resolves this first section back to a G note, which is kind of interesting because the song is briefly going back to a C chord, but yeah, he ends it on the G note, which kind of gives it a good sense of resolve. And then he uses repetition. He kind of starts it the same way for the back half of the solo, which makes this solo super iconic. Just you get that repetition going and it really sticks in your brain. But so he starts it the same way, now working on the second half. And here's where he changes it a little bit. So that part's identical to the first part. And then he's coming down, and I use my pinky here on the 7th fret. And I'm pre-bending before I pick the string, so bending up, and if you think about your G chord here again, the D shape, I'm bending up from a flat 7 up to that root again. So as far as what's actually ringing out, it's the major 3rd of G, and then the actual root, that's a G note, and we're bending it down or releasing the bend to the flat 7. And then we come back to this kind of G minor box territory. So doing that bend again. And then he resolves it. So he does that full step bend, releasing it, and kind of does like a microtonal, like bluesy bend there. There I'm just doing a hammer-on and a pull-off, a slide there from 1 to 2, and then I'm using my middle finger to pop the D string open, and then just finally resolving to a G chord or a G note. So if we think about what chords are happening as we play over this second section, obviously it's starting on the G chord again. But then here it goes to a D chord. And it's interesting. He's playing stuff that sounds very G minor pentatonic-y. He's playing it over the D chord, over the 5 chord. But something that he's doing that makes it work is this bent note. When he's bending up, he's actually bending to the note D. So he's briefly outlining that root note of the D chord. He's outlining the D note within kind of a G lick, if that makes sense, which kind of is why it works so well. And then obviously for that kind of open string bit he does at the end, the song is moved back to G, and then he just resolves it nicely. So yeah, the whole solo played slowly. So like I said, this video is part of a larger series covering country guitar techniques that I have up over on Patreon. So if you're interested in learning this style, if you're really trying to dive into this stuff, I would just suggest going and checking that out. For $5 a month, you get access to the whole series, as well as tabs and backing tracks to the other stuff that I post here on YouTube. Obviously, I appreciate any support over on that platform, but also I appreciate all the love and support here on YouTube. Thank you everyone for checking out the channel, for subscribing and liking these videos, commenting on them. It definitely helps the algorithm out over here. But yeah, that's what I got for you all today. Hopefully you dig it. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you take something away from this you can use in your playing. I think that's all I got. All right, cheers, take care. We will see you all next time. So I couldn't end this video without throwing this in here. Obviously you're seeing I'm wearing a Rolling Stones shirt. If you listen to the song, Alan Jackson has a line about how he can't handle the Rolling Stones. Thought it would be a neat little thing to do, to wear a Rolling Stones shirt while teaching a guitar lesson over the solo from a song that says you can't handle the Rolling Stones. Just my really bad sense of humor coming out. All right, cheers. We'll see ya.